Hello everybody, how are you today? Welcome again in your program Languages of the World and a new episode of English. This month we are celebrating the International Women's Day. الشهر ده احنا بنحتفل بيوم المرأة العالمي. So, because we are celebrating also women this episode واحنا بنحتفل في الحلقة دي بالمرأة أيضا, we are going to see or have a look on some of the writers or the women writers. يعني هنتكلم عن بعض السيدات اللي هم الكتاب من السيدات starting from the Victorian age من عصر الفيكتوري and some of the contemporary women writers وبعض من السيدات المعاصرة أو الحديثة. And to start with, we start with who was Queen Victoria or what was the Victorian age. Let us start together. Here we have, of course, today and this month we are in March, so we are starting celebrating women, and we will start with Queen Victoria. She was born in 1819 and died in 1901. She married with Prince Albert, who was her cousin. Victoria was the daughter of Prince Edward and the granddaughter of the King George III. طبعا الملكة فيكتوريا كانت ابنة أمير إدوارد وحفيدة الملك جورج الثالث. Her reign was the longest in the history of England. حكمها كان أطول حكم في تاريخ إنجلترا. It was about 64 years, يعني كان حوالي 64 سنة. She boosted the peace and the stability in the kingdom, يعني كان بيعم في وقتها السلام والاستقرار. The Victorian age changes. ايه اللي حصل في الفيكتوريان age؟ The Victorian age was an important period of changes. يعني كان بيحصل تغييرات كتيرة فيه. Middle classes emerged, يعني ظهر الطبقة الوسطى. Development of science, تطور العلم. Industrial society, المجتمع بقى صناعي. Political reforms, إصلاحات سياسية. Working class reached, يعني كان الطبقة العاملة كانت بائسة في الوقت ده. Religious movements, حركات دينية. And the novel consolidates, وطبعا ظهر النوفل. And the British Empire, وبريطانيا كانت إمبراطورية. The name of Victorian age comes from Queen Victoria, of course. طبعا سموا العصر ده Victorian age نسبة للملكة فيكتوريا. It was preceded by the Georgian period and succeeded by the Edwardian period. دايما كانوا بيسموا العصر باسم الملك بتاعه. The way of life changed completely. A way based on the ownership of land to a modern urban economy. كان الأول النظام الاقتصادي قائم على إملاكية الأرض، كان في ownership of land، بس بعد كده ابتدى المجتمع يبقى اقتصادي based on trade and manufacturing، قائم على الصناعة والتجارة. The Victorian novel، نيجي طبعا للفيكتوريان نوفل أو الرواية في العصر الفيكتوري. The Victorian novel was written to entertain middle classes. يعني كانت بتتكتب علشان تسلي الطبقات الوسطى. They were idealized portraits of the society. يعني كانت زي بورتري أو صورة مثالية للمجتمع. They narrated in a realistic way their difficult lives. وكانوا بيحكوا بشكل واقعي مشاكلهم الحياتية. Victorian novels is concerned with social reforms. وكانت بتهتم بالإصلاحات الاجتماعية. The first family or the first female writers were the Bronte family. Actually, the Brontes were a 19th century literary family. أسرة في القرن ال19 كانت أسرة متعلمة associated with Howarth in the West Riding of Yorkshire, England. كانت في يوركشاير, England. They originally published their poems and novels under masculine pseudonyms. هما كان معظمهم بنات، الأسرة كلها من الفتيات، وكانوا بينشروا النوفلز بتاعتهم والقصائد بتاعتهم تحت أسامي مستعارة ذكورية، يعني باسم رجالة. Their stories immediately attracted attention. فورا القصص بتاعتهم أثارت الانتباه. Although not always the best for their passion and originality. يعني كانت القصص دي فيها مليانة بالعاطفة والواقعية. Charlotte Bronte، أولهم Charlotte Bronte. She was an English novelist and poet. يعني كانت كاتبة وشاعرة إنجليزية. The eldest of the three Bronte sisters، أكبر الإخوات الثلاثة. survived into adulthood, whose novels are English literature standards. الكتب بتاعتها أو الروايات بتاعتها كلاسيكيات في الأدب الإنجليزي. She wrote Jane Eyre under the pen name Currer Bell. كتبت جين إير تحت اسم كيرر بيل، وهنعرف ليه كانوا بيكتبوا القصص بتاعتهم تحت أسماء رجال يعني. Bronte family. Emily Bronte. Emily was born on 30th of July 1818 in Thornton near Bradford in Yorkshire to Maria Branwell and Patrick Bronte. She was the younger sister of Charlotte Bronte and the fifth of 6 children. In 1824, the family moved to Haworth, where Emily's father was perpetual curate, and it was in these surroundings that their literary gifts flourished. يعني المكان اللي كانت عايشة فيه ده خلى التالنتس أو المواهب الأدبية بتاعتهم تزدهر. Anne Bronte. Anne Bronte was British novelist and poet, the sister, of course, of the Bronte, Emily Bronte. She was the youngest member of the Bronte literary family, أصغر الإخوات Anne Bronte. Elizabeth Gaskell, another one of the Victorian novelists women. Elizabeth Cleggan Gaskell, often referred to simply as Mrs. Gaskell. She was a British novelist and short story writer. During the Victorian era, كانت بتكتب روايات وقصص قصيرة. She was born on the 29th of September in 1810 and died the 12th of November 1865. Her most important work in the past are the biography of Charlotte Bronte, but in the future the novels have risen. يعني كتبت البيوغرافي أو قصة حياة شارلوت برونتي وبعد كده قصصها الشخصية. And we come to George Eliot or Mary Ann Evans. طبعا لما نقول جورج إليوت الناس تفتكر ان ده اسم كاتب رجل، هي الحقيقة اسم سيدة نوفلست روائية، بس خدت اسم جورج إليوت لأن في العصر ده كان السيدات مش يعني بياخدوهم على محمل الجد، فعلشان القصص بتاعتها أو بتاعت غيرها من الكاتبات تلقى اهتمام كانوا بيكتبوا القصص بتاعتهم تحت أسماء مستعارة للرجال يعني. فعلشان كده ماري آن كتبت تحت اسم جورج إليوت، فهي جورج إليوت she is a lady which is Mary Ann, not a man. George Eliot, she used a male pen name as we said, استخدمت اسم مستعار she said to ensure her works would be taken seriously عشان تأكد ان الشغل بتاعها هياخدوه بمحمل الجد. Also, as her life was very scandalous, many believe the reason she used different name is simply because she wanted to keep her privacy. وكمان حياتها كانت مليانة مشاكل وإشاعات، فعلشان كده بعض بيشوف ان هي استخدمت الاسم ده علشان تبعد عن المشاكل وتحتفظ بالخصوصية بتاعتها. Early life. Birthplace of George Eliot, Warwickshire, and her parents were Robert and Christina Evans. The siblings means طبعا brothers and sisters. Christina, Isaac, and twin brothers who survived only a few days into March. يعني she had Christina, she had Isaac, and twin brothers. Half brother and half sister Robert and Fanny. So these were all her siblings, brothers and sisters. Her education. Mary Ann was considered rather intelligent. يعني considered rather intelligent means يعني كانت تعتبر ذكية. Aged from 5 to 9 Miss Latham School, Attleborough. راحت المدرسة دي في وقت من 5 ل 9 سنوات. Then Mrs. Wellington School, then Miss Franklin's School. Then after the age of 16 she started self-educating. يعني قعدت تتعلم لغاية ما عمرها بقى 16 سنة وبعد كده ابتدت تعلم نفسها بنفسها by being allowed access to the library of Arbury Hall. راحت المكتبة مكتبة Arbury Hall وابتدت تعلم نفسها بنفسها. Then she moved to Coventry. Evans was 16 when her mother died, leaving her to take care of her father and be a housekeeper. لما والدتها توفت وهي عندها 16 سنة ماري آن خدت بالها من البيت ومن والدها. When she was 21 her brother Isaac married, taking over the family home. Evans moved to Coventry with her father. طبعا أخوها أخذ البيت بتاعهم فاتنقلت لكوفنتري مع باباها. There she meets Charles Bray, who was a wealthy man, and became intimate friends with him. Also starts questioning her religious faith. في الوقت ده تصادقت مع تشارلز براي، هو كان غني وأصبحوا أصدقاء. Her after dies later on when she was 30. وتوفى وهي عندها 30 سنة 5 days after she travels to Switzerland with Bray. She moved to London. Moved to London with the intent of becoming a writer. اتنقلت بعد كده لندن علشان تصبح كاتبة and calling herself Marianne Evans. Contributed essays and reviews for the journal of the man whom she had stayed with while in London, a certain John Chapman. وكانت بتكتب essays وكانت برضو بتكتب زي في صحف، يعني بتكتب reviews يعني آراء شخصية ومقالات. George Henry Lewis, he was a philosopher and critic. He met Evans in 1851 and by 1854 they had decided to live together and marry. He was married to Agnes Jervis with whom he had 3 children. كان متجوز قبلها. They traveled to Germany for the purpose of research. Evans worked on translation of theological texts. ابتدت إيفانس تشتغل على ترجمة التكست الدينية. Then, after this, while writing for the journal Westminster Review, she started mocking the way women writers wrote. وهي بتكتب بقى لجورنال اسمه ويستمنستر، ابتدت تتريق على الطريقة اللي بتكتب بيها السيدات. She said, silly novels by lady novelists. انتقدتهم وقالت إن رواياتهم سخيفة. She came up with the name George Eliot and decided to be a novelist. وقررت إنها تبقى novelist. Her publications, First and Last, Adam Berry, it had an instant success. القصة دي حصلت على نجاح فوري. Everyone wanted to know who this new writer was. كل الناس كانت عايزة تعرف مين الكاتب الجديد ده. It made a huge shock for her admiring readers, but it never lowered her popularity. طبعا لما عرفوا إنها ست اللي كاتبة القصة دي طبعا الناس كلها اندهشت واتصدموا. She was completely accepted to polite society. وبعد كده تقبلوها. 15 years of writing novels and it ended it with Daniel Deronda. كانت آخر قصة ليها كانت دانيال ديروندا. Fun facts about George Eliot. Even after her death they didn't let her have a memorial stone in Westminster Abbey's Poets Corner. حتى بعد ما ماتت رفضوا انهم يعملوا لها زي نصب تذكاري في ويستمنستر ابيز بويتس كورنر، في كورنر مخصص لكتاب ويستمنستر ابي. They allowed it 100 years later. يعني ما سمحوش بكده غير بعد 100 سنة من وفاتها. Several people claimed to be George Eliot before Mary Ann came out. وكتير منهم قعدوا يعني يدعوا ان هم جورج إليوت قبل ما ماري آن تكشف السر ده. It is said that after an affair with Evans, famous British philosopher, wrote an essay on the malignancy of ugly women, and of all of Evans' friends knew it was about her. يعني صديقها ده كتب عن السيدات يعني اللي شكلها مش حلو، وكل أصحابها افتكروا إن الكلام ده عليها. She was not that pretty. Then we come to some of the contemporary novelists, American and European. نيجي بعد كده بعد ما خدنا فكرة عن الفيكتوريان women writers، نيجي بقى للسيدات اللي هي في الفترة الحديثة أو المعاصرة، منهم من أمريكا ومنهم من غير كده. ف we have a look. Then we will focus on one of these women writers, Maya Angelou. But first we have to know some information about some of them. نعرف بعض المعلومات عن الكاتبات المعاصرات. We will start by Beverly Cleary. She grew up on a farm in Oregon before moving to Portland. She's noted for portraying the lives of children with both accuracy and humor. الكاتبة دي بتكتب عن حياة الأطفال. In 1984, she received a Newbery Medal for her book, Dear Mr. Henshaw, about a boy who writes to his favorite author to cope with his parents' divorce. خدت الجايزة عن قصتها عن طفل بيكتب للكاتب المفضل له علشان يقدر يتعامل مع الطلاق والديه. Her beloved character, Ramona Quimby, appears in a series about a spirited but exasperating girl grown up in Oregon. يعني بتكتب عن المراهقين ومشاعرهم والأطفال. Claire's own twin children inspired her characters, Mitch and Amy. كلير كان عندها توأم وهما اللي خلوها تفكر في شخصيات ميتش and Amy. In addition to her children's fiction, she published 2 memoirs about her life growing up, The Girl from Yamhill and My Own 2 Feet. يعني كتبت عن حياتها الشخصية في قصتين. Willa Cather, she was born in 1873 in Virginia. She was born in Virginia and moved to Nebraska when she was 9. كاتبة تانية. She was raised on the frontier among immigrants from Germany, Sweden, and Czech Republic and Russia. يعني من المهاجرات من ألمانيا. Much of her work portrayed pioneers on the frontier. يعني كانت بتتكلم عن الرواد اللي كانوا على الحدود in the Midwest of America. In 1922, she won the Pulitzer Prize for her novel One of Ours about the pioneer spirit. يعني أخذت جائزة Pulitzer Prize. Sandra Cisneros. Sandra Cisneros was born in 1954 in Illinois and is recognized for her literary portrayals of Mexican American life. Sandra طبعا Mexican American and for exploring race, class and gender in her work. وكانت دايما بتتكلم عن التنوع ما بين الجنسيات وما بين السيدات والرجال وما بين الكلاسز اللي هي طبقات الحياة المختلفة. She's best known for her novel The House on Mango Street. In her children's book Hers, Pilitos, Cisneros explores issues of human diversity using different hair textures within one family. يعني كانت بتتكلم عن الاختلافات ما بين حتى في الأسرة الواحدة. In 2016 she was presented with the National Medal of Arts. يعني حصلت على الميدالية المحلية في الفن. Then we come to Virginia Woolf. Virginia Woolf was born in 1882 in London. Here it is not American. She is not an American writer. She is an English writer. Into a socially and artistically well-connected family. أسرتها كانت معروفة. She lived with her parents, 3 siblings. طبعا قلنا siblings يعني أخواتها البنات والولاد. And 4 half siblings. As a child, she spent her summers in a beach town called St. Ives, which inspired the setting for some of her writing. يعني قضت طفولتها على البحر وده طبعا ادى عمل أفكار كتيرة من كتاباتها. Her novels are considered influential because of their non-linear format. يعني الكتب بتاعتها تعتبر مؤثرة جدا لأن البناء بتاعها أو الشكل بتاعها مختلف. Her 4th novel, Mrs. Dalloway, is widely regarded as her best work. وأفضل كتاباتها كانت قصة بعنوان Mrs. Dalloway. Then we have Emily Dickinson. اتكلمنا عن Emily Dickinson قبل كده. Was born in 1830 in Massachusetts. She began writing as a teenager. Her work is significant because of its innovative use of form and syntax. طبعا Emily Dickinson معروفة بالقصائد بتاعتها اللي مختلفة في الشكل والمعنى. She was a prolific poet, writing nearly 1,800 poems in her lifetime. يعني كتبت حوالي 1800 قصيدة. However, only 10 of these were published while she was alive. ما عرفتش تنشر منهم غير 10 بس. Really, she lived in a reclusive life. يعني كانت حياتها منعزلة. Rarely traveling. When she wasn't writing, she also studied botany and kept an herbarium. يعني كانت بتدرس النباتات. As an adult, she kept her family close. She lived with her sister in her childhood home, and her older brother and his wife lived in a house next door. يعني قبل ما تموت كانت عايشة تقريبا مع أسرتها. Then we come to Maya Angelou, on whom we will focus today. معانا Maya Angelou اللي هنركز معاها. Maya Angelou was born in 1928 in Missouri. After a turbulent childhood, she moved to San Francisco with her mother and worked odd jobs before becoming a writer. As a young writer, she worked for newspapers in Egypt and Ghana. طبعا Maya Angelou, she was a black woman and she worked as in a newspaper as a journalist in Egypt and Ghana. Her screenplay Georgia was made into a movie. يعني كتبت برضو قصة عملوها movie, making her the first African American woman to have a screenplay made into a movie. يعني أول واحدة أمريكية أفريقية تتعمل مسرحيتها لفيلم. She eventually published I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings about her childhood years. مايا أنجلو معروفة أكتر حاجة بالبيوغرافي بتاعتها أو قصة حياتها اللي مسمياها I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, and went on to publish several more autobiographical works. She was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. يعني حصلت على اللي هي الميدالية الرئاسية للحرية. Here is Maya Angelou. She was an author, poet, civil rights activist يعني كاتبة شاعرة ناشطة سياسية، women's rights activist يعني ناشطة لحقوق المرأة، professor، world renowned speaker يعني متحدثة عالمية، actress ممثلة، playwright كاتبة مسرحية، producer and director منتجة ومخرجة. all of these. As an activist كناشطة سياسية she married a South African freedom fighter يعني اتجوزت واحد يعني من النشطاء السياسيين اللي بيسعوا نحو الحرية. In Cairo was editor of the Arab Observer, the only English language newspaper in the Middle East. يعني اشتغلت في الجريدة الوحيدة الإنجليزية اللي لغتها الإنجليزية في الشرق الأوسط. In Ghana was featured editor of the African Review and taught at the University of Ghana. كانت بتدرس في جامعة غانا. With Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. she became the Northern Coordinator for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference وكانت رئيسة للمؤتمر المسيحيين الجنوبيين. Appointed by President Ford to the Bicentennial Commission. Her philosophy in life يعني مايا أنجلو ليها فلسفة في الحياة. She says that justice begins with each of us. We must seek justice, but at the same time we must care not to lust after revenge. We are no better than our adversaries. We should always be on the side of justice. معنى ايه الكلام ده؟ Justice begins with each of us يعني العدالة بتبدأ بكل واحد فينا. We must seek justice يعني احنا لازم نبحث عنها، نبحث عن العدالة، ما نستسلمش للظلم. But at the same time بس في نفس الوقت we must care not to lust after revenge. لكن في بحثنا عن العدالة دي ما يجبش اننا نسعى للانتقام. lust for revenge يعني نسعى جامد او نشتهي الانتقام. We are no better than our adversaries يعني احنا مش افضل من الناس المختلفين عننا او الناس اللي ضدنا، احنا زينا زيهم. We should always be on the side of justice بما معناه ان كلنا متساويين، مفيش حد مختلف عن التاني. لو عايزين الدنيا يبقى فيها عدل يبقى لازم نسعى للعدالة دي من غير ما يكون جوانا حب الانتقام. Actually Maya Angelou like others of the African Americans زيها زي كتير من African American women they called for طبعا justice and freedom بس بشكل طبعا أقل لأن وقتها ما كانش فيه slavery زي زمان، لكن حياتها وهي صغيرة كانت برضو بتعاني من بعض السيجريجيشن أو التفرقة العنصرية. نذكر منهم روزا باركس برضو she was an activist African American and as Maya Angelou she tried to find justice. By this we end our tour with the writers, the women writers. بننهي جولتنا مع الكتاب السيدات. طبعا مش بس السيدات كانوا في ككتاب بس أو نجحوا ككاتبات، لكن طبعا نجحوا في مجالات كتير. We will see about this later in other episodes. هنشوف كده بعدين في episodes تانية. But today it was celebrating the International Women's Day. So till we meet again, see you next time. Have a nice day.